Hello everyone, my name is Clint.
And my name is Seth, and Clint and I are on the sales team here at Liberty Systems. And today in this video, we are going to be comparing the CK65 device with the Intermec CK3X.
Right, and the reason we're looking at these two devices today, Seth, is because the CK65 is the direct replacement to the CK3X, just in that Android operating system. So not only are we going to be looking at comparing the two, but we're really going to be talking about some considerations to maybe think about and why it might be important to upgrade. I will also say too that a lot of the conversation today is going to be applicable to anyone using the old Intermec CK71 or possibly CK75. But again, just for the scope of the conversation, we're strictly just going to be talking about the CK3X versus the 65. So let's start off right away, Seth. What do we have for some similarities between the two?
Yeah, the big one right away, as you can see here, is the form factor is nearly identical. So Honeywell made it very easy for CK3X users to transition to the CK65 based on the form factor. You can see here the keypad layouts are also very similar. The Honeywell CK65 does have a few more keypad options available if you have some kind of specific need for that, but that's definitely a big similarity, makes it easy. Another similarity too is just like the CK3Xs came pre-licensed with terminal emulation, same thing is true for the CK65. And then the last one I'll mention too is a big one. The CK65 is backwards compatible with the accessories to the CK3X. So any kind of pistol grips, chargers, holsters, things like that, you're all going to be able to use those that same hardware with the CK65. So those are some of the similarities we see. Clint, what are some of the big differences that we need to point out?
Yeah, the first one you notice right away is the screen size. So, obviously you have the 4-inch screen on the CK65. It's about a 1/2 inch bigger than the CK3X. Although it's only about a 1/2 inch difference, as you can see, it does make a pretty, large comparison for that viewer area. Another thing being too is the actual type of touchscreen. So CK65 is that newer modern touchscreen versus the old resistive digital type touchscreen. So again, just the user experience with that is just going to be a little bit better. Next one being too is drop spec. So a massive difference there. The CK3X had only a 5-foot drop spec, which is actually pretty good for the industry, a while back. Now the CK65 has a 10-foot drop spec. So that's doubled. So that's very impressive with that unit. And really just the last thing to maybe note is that the CK65 does come in a freezer model. So that's something new that was never offered in the CK3X. So if you want to expand your operations to some sort of freezer environment or possibly outside, the CK65 allows you to do that. But maybe let's talk more about those internal differences, Seth. What do we have there?
Yeah, the big one right off the bat, which is definitely a game changer, is the operating system. So on the older CK3Xs, you're going to have Windows Mobile on there, but now on the CK65 is that Android operating system. And so with that, Android, you're going to get a handful of different tools to help manage the unit. So Honeywell calls it Mobility Edge, and basically that allows for really seamless and easy deployment of the devices. So for example, you can scan a barcode now to push out a configuration on a unit,
right,
which is a big time-saving tool. Another key difference to point out too is the scan engines between the two units. So the old CK3X had a scan engine that could go up to maybe 60 feet, but the CK65 has an XLR scan engine in it. It goes all the way up to 80 feet, which is really impressive, and can go as close as 3 inches for scanning. So definitely a big one. And then another thing to mention too is the wireless antennas in each unit. So the CK65 is going to have the most up-to-date technology with that. Better coverage, better roaming, just an overall better network experience on that CK65 compared to the CK3. And then the last one that is very notable is the battery life between the two. So CK65 gets 28 hours on one charge, which is very impressive compared to the CK3. Only you're going to get 12 to 14 hours, so a big improvement was made in that area. Yeah. So those are some of the big differences. Clint, if we have anybody out there that's maybe thinking of doing an upgrade, they're on the fence, what are some considerations that we want to talk about?
Yeah, I think two come to mind right away, and that first one being that the operating system difference. So like you said, Android on the CK65, Windows Mobile on the CK3X. Windows Mobile's gone. It's no longer supported for Microsoft. There's no longer security updates coming out, features coming out. So if you need to make sure that your company is on the most recent security standards, you want to be able to get those latest patches, you should move up to the CK65, get on Android, get that security. And really the last thing being is that mobility edge that you talked about. So, I mean, the way you used to have to set up the old devices like the CK3X, you used to have to cradle it, connect it to your PC. It was a very convoluted, very time-consuming process. You know, now you can scan a barcode, download wireless, download an application, lock the device down. You know, that whole thing is much quicker. So if you want to alleviate some of the time constraints that your IT team or IT personnel has on these for setting them up, might be worth considering there. But that really much kind of covers the information we want to talk about today, Seth. If you have any more questions on either one of these units or any units in that matter, please reach out to Liberty Systems. We would love to have a conversation with you and help guide you on the journey to find the best possible device for your organization.